I'm here this morning talking with one of the most iconic figures in GAA history, Barney Rock. Barney, nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, Paul.
Barney, you had a fantastic GAA career. You took over from one of the greatest of all Dublin goal scorers, Jimmy Keaveney, and you came in at the back of a great year of Heffo's Army in the 70s. What was that like for a young Dublin lad?
It was fantastic because in the 70s we would have been looking at the great Dublin team starting off in their role. I would have been in the dressing room back in the game when they played Cork in 1974 as a young lad. You know, my uncle was involved there with the dressing rooms and that, and I would have seen firsthand Dublin's progress at that stage, even though I was only about 12 or 13. And I suppose that really lifted all the people in Dublin at that stage, and it would have propelled people thinking of wanting to play for Dublin, and it progressed from there.
Great. Every young fella would have dreamed, every Dublin young fella, particularly after in the year of the 70s, would have dreamed of playing. When did you first realise? When did you first start playing?
Well, I was involved with Ballymun Kickhams. And that was back, we would have started playing probably in around 1967 as a team as such, about 6 or 7 within the school and within Ballymun Kickhams itself, and it progressed from there. And I suppose my heart would have been, believe it or not, I played wing back when I was growing up, and all of a sudden then the teachers kept trying to stop me going forward. So instead of stopped me going forward, he left me in the forward line, and from there then, you know, it just took off. That I just had a happy knack of getting in, scoring, and also then with the free taking at that particular stage would have been all off the ground. So I had a good powerful kick off the ground, and that led towards me just propelling into taking the frees as well.
A good decision, if I may say so, as a Dublin supporter. You grew up on Griffith Drive in Ballygall and went to Kevin's.
Yeah,
Sacred Heart first.
That's right. I was one of 11 children. There was 9 boys and 2 girls in the family. My mother Kathleen, my father Willie. So we were there. We were only a 2-bedroom house, so sometimes for dinner was forced in. You know, guess the most. So if you were late, it was your hard luck. But we had a great time. We had a public park in front of us, Johnstown Park, in which we would have spent a lot of time up there. There was a playground in it, and at that particular stage, we would have had in Griffith Drive a lot of lads who would have been involved in soccer, like Fran O'Brien, Ray O'Brien. They would have been up the road, and they went on to play for Bows, Vancouver, Whitecaps, and Ray would have played with Shelburne. Won an FA Cup medal with them and leagues with them, and went over then and played with Notts County and that in England. So, but we used to have a great setup where there could be probably about maybe 20 fellas out in the road playing, and all we needed at that stage just to play and keep everybody happy was the ball. There was a few windows broken, that, you know, but them things happened. But we had a fantastic bringing up. It was tough, you know, but it was enjoyable bringing up.
Yeah, a lot of your school friends at the time, some of them became household names as well.
They did, yeah. I progressed and I went on to Sacred Heart, you know, as in small school coming up, and I would have been in school with the likes of John Cairns, a good friend of mine, Jerry Hargan, Anton McCall, Sean Mylan, Lord of Mercy, who died 3 or 4 years ago. But a lot of Dermot Deasy, a lot of the great players that would have played for Dublin around my time, we were all together, and it propelled us into Ballymun Kickhams as well, because we were all playing with Ballymun. And it really all started in Sacred Heart School with Mick Lahart was the principal, a great Kilkenny man, and he actually got to Kilkenny to get the Liam McCarthy Cup on occasions, you know, and like it was only in 1994 that Fran Ryder, who was also from Ballymun area, he actually brought in the Sam Maguire, so it was good to get the Sam Maguire in on top of the Liam McCarthy.
Definitely, yeah. So your club football then with Ballymun?
Yeah, you know,
it was successful.
It was. We always had two teams as we were growing up. I was always on a year ahead of us, You know, and the year ahead of the team had all the great players that I mentioned beforehand, and they were the most successful of the whole lot, because Ballymun, there was a split back in the 60s where Ballymun split away from CJ Kickhams, and one side of the club went to Nafina, which is a very, very popular club at the moment, and the other side went to Ballymun, and we ended up being in Ballymun. We didn't know anything about the politics, but we would have started off, and Anton McCall's father was really a diehard in it, and he was propelling the club forward, and Frank McCaffrey. And we would have went on then and been successful at underage level, under 15, 16. We won the first minor championship back in 77, and then in 78 with that team, we would have went on then and got the club to play senior football. We would have won the senior league, and the following year we came on and won the intermediate championship, and that was back in 1979 when we won the intermediate championship. And we participated in 4 or 5 senior finals after that, winning 2 of them, one in 1982 and the other in 85.
Great. And it was around that time, Barry, then that you came to the notice of the Dublin selectors.
Yeah, I would have been involved with the minor team. The under 14 teams, and going back a little bit again, which was 75, we would have played minor football. And we beat Louth in another 14 championship, and that really gave you the buzz, because it was just coming after Dublin's 74 win, and then you were looking forward to the minor, which always preceded the senior match. And I would have been involved with the minors in 1978 when we won the Leinster, and we were beaten in the All-Ireland final by Mayo. Looked like we were going to win it. We were 6 points up with 8 minutes to go. And we ended up being beaten by 4. They scored 3-2 and we only scored a point. So there's a lot of little stories about how they got to 3-2. But that was it, all water under the bridge. And the following year then we came out, there was I think 5 of us underage. And we came out the following year and we ended up winning the All-Ireland. We beat Kerry in the final, which was great. And we won at 10 points to 1-6, so it was a fantastic win. So it was from there that it all propelled then, that Jimmy retired in 1979, and it was a stepping stone. People would always say that I was going to come in, but there was a big jump from minor to senior.
Of course.
And what happened was I did come on and play in a National League match against Cork in Croke Park, my first match in October, I think, of 1979. And I always remember the first free I got was 21 yards out, and it was a little bit to the left of the goal, but it was really wet, mucky all day, and the ball, as I kicked it, never rose off the ground. It just bounced into Jimmy, into Billy, his hands, the goalkeeper, Billy Morgan, and so it just taught you a lesson that, listen, nothing is sure until you put it over the bar. But with that successful minor team, we went on then to play the following year in the under-21 All-Ireland, which Cork bet us. And then it just, at that stage then, I was more or less propelled into the senior panel.
And from then on, then you were a permanent fixture right up till 1991.
Yeah, 1991. Yeah, we great times. Like I think Dublin had won 6 Leinster titles up to 1979, and we were in 1980 going for a record. Nobody's ever done 7 in a row, and Dublin were going for this 7 in a row. And at that stage, we came up against a very good Offaly team. We were winning by 6 points at half time, and it looked good for us. But then the second half, Matt Connor took off, and I think he scored 1-7 in the second half, and they ended up beating us. And on that occasion, then Offaly went on to win 3 Leinsters in a row. So we were always sort of second best to Offaly during that period. And Offaly made their big breakthrough in '82 when they beat Kerry, and we ended up getting to the Leinster final in '83. The previous week, or I think the same day, Kerry played down in Munster against Cork, and Cork beat them, which was a shock. And we ended up going up and playing Offaly in the Leinster final in a game that people thought we hadn't a chance. Yeah. And we ended up winning it by 5 points. So it was just 2 new teams into it, and that's how it all propelled. And we ended up going on to win the next 3 Leinsters after that.
Yeah, and that 1983 Dublin All-Ireland win, I mean, you're forever associated with that, the semi-final particularly, and the final. The first game against Cork in the semi-final, I mean, the goal you scored to bring it to a replay, and then you went down to Cork, which was most unusual.
Yeah, like the game itself was a funny game. It was a lovely day, and basically I think it was 2-11 apiece, and we were 5 points down. I always remember about 6 minutes to go, and we were 5 points down. We got a 50, and we were deciding there was a bit of a hold up because there was a fella injured in the goalmouth area, and while that was there was fellas were saying put it in around the square, or what do you do? So I decided that there was no point putting it around the square because there was nearly 25 fellas in it. We wouldn't have got a goal that way.
Right.
So I decided, right, the best thing to do was go for the point. We still had 6 minutes left, and then from the point we went, we scored the point, and then from the next kick out a minute or two later, Joe McNally had a great chance, and he flicked the ball, and the goalkeeper made a fantastic save, and that brought it down to a 3-point game. And once you get it down to 3 points or 2 points, you have a chance. And I always remember John Cairns, Pat Canavan getting the ball, giving it to John Cairns, who then gave it to Brian Mullins, who tried to give a pass to, I think it might have been Joe McNally coming out, but Joe slipped, the ball bounced over his head, went to Ray Hazley, and above all the fellas you weren't expecting to get a pass from, Ray actually put the ball back behind everybody where I was coming in, and I had the easy task then of putting it away. Just happened to be in the right time at the right place, and I suppose that was a draw, and it gave us all great relief. And straight after the match then, Frank Murphy turned around and said, no, this match has to go to Cork, in fairness of the GAA. And we never bothered. We were getting a second chance.
Yeah.
So from that then, the match was in Cork, and it just proved to be one of the most spectacular weekends of our lives away. First time outside of Croke Park, and on the way down there was just a sea of blue and navy all the way down.
Yeah, I remember stories of some supporters went out on the Saturday night and they never got to actually see the match because they didn't wake up, one or two of them.
Yeah,
but it was a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, we went out ourselves really on the Saturday night, but I better put that in better context. We went down on the Saturday and we stayed in the Blarney Park hotel, and we had a meeting, had a meal. We got down there around 6 or so. We had a meeting then at 7, and a meal and a meeting, and Kevin turned around and he said, listen lads, I'm not going to tell you all to go to bed. You do what you normally do on a Saturday night before a match at home, which was a wise decision. So some of us went out walking in the park just to have a look around, and other couple of lads might have went off and had a pint of Guinness or couple of pints. That's it, and that was the normal thing, so that was the way it went.
Yeah.
There was a great banter within the area where we were, but we were sort of away from a lot of it. Yeah. And we got up the following morning, we had our breakfast, we kissed the Blarney Stone, which you would normally do, and just to kill time.
Yeah.
But with that then, we knew there was going to be a massive crowd down. It was a gorgeous summer's day. So Heffron turned around, the match was fixed for I think 3:30. And Heffron turned around and said, right lads, we're leaving at 1. We'll get to the stadium early. So we ended up getting to the stadium. We were there, I would imagine, at probably about an hour and a half before kick-off. And just while we were there was a hurling match on. I think Kilkenny might have been playing Cork in a junior hurling game. But at half-time of that hurling match, Kevin Heffron said, right lads, go out. But you might as well go out and walk on the pitch. So we went out on the pitch, and the unbelievable amount of people that were at it, at that stage. And this was a full hour and a quarter before the game, and the place was 3/4 full, something that you wouldn't get before. So people were getting their vantage points, and we had a great time. We went out and we got the banter, we got into a great feeling, and the game just took off when we scored a goal in the first minute of the game. The ball was kicked in, and I chased onto it and I caught it. I'd always say I was going to turn to put it in the net, but the goalkeeper pulled me down, and Brian Mullins ended up scoring the penalty, and it gave us a great start, and we built on from there.
It was fantastic. Actually, people still talk about that 30 years later, that weekend down there. And then in the final, people still talk about the 12-man final.
Yeah, which was a pity, because it was unfortunate, because we had played 2 great games in the semi-final, and we probably played our best football, and it was in glorious sunshine. And all of a sudden then we came to the final, and it nearly had all the seasons. We woke up that morning, it was a lovely day, the wind was getting up, we went for a walk on the Phoenix Park, and by the time we got to the stadium, it was raining, and then the sun came out, and then the wind really howled just as the game started, because I always remember putting the ball down to take a free on the 50-yard line, and by the time I was coming up to kick it, I was nearly running after the ball, which was about 10 yards further on. So it was just unfortunate the way the conditions, and then it was unfortunate that we had 3 men sent off. And these things happen. You can't turn back the clock. And thankfully we went on to win the game. Exactly. It would have been a disaster if we'd have lost it, but from a Galway point of view, I'm sure that they were disappointed because they had the extra men, they had the wind, and they had the chances, but the gods weren't with them on the day.
You've scored many great goals for Dublin during your career, Barney, but that goal you scored in the final with the keeper, they still talk about, people are still saying it was there, 50 or how far out was it? It gets longer every time, but it was great opportunist goal.
Well,
it actually won the game in the end.
Well, the goal was the difference really. 110 to 1-8 was the finish. So, but on that particular occasion, I tell 2 stories. One to the Galway men. When they ask me about it, I always say, well, I was kicking it back to Pádraig Kine in goals, and it just happened to fall over his head. And the other one then was, which would be the truth on it, is that we had a challenge trial match, and I always played full forward with the club. And at that stage, I would always watch for the keeper's kickouts, and as he's kicking it, I'd always try and jump in front of the full back, and if I caught it, I'd kick it over his head. So it was something that I always had done, being brought up. And what happened on 2 weeks before, we had the trial match, and we were playing against each other, and I just can't think of the goalkeeper now who was playing against. It wasn't John O'Leary at the time. It was Niall. But he had kicked out the ball, but he had kicked it out badly, nearly identical to where it was. And I stood in front of PJ, caught it and kicked it back over his head. So the ball was a goal. So ironically, that's what happened in the final. Where we knew kind of the problem with his feet. In the sense that I think he might have broke his toe. And on that occasion, I said, listen, sure, I'll take the chance, because I was always doing it. And I just stood inside Seamus McHugh, who was marking me, and I caught it about 50 yards out. But by the time I kicked it, it was probably 2 or 3 yards closer. But I had the wind. Had it been the other way, I wouldn't have had it, wouldn't have had the opportunity. And thankfully it went in.
But it's fantastic. So that was your All-Ireland senior medal. You'd won the minor medal, as you said, against Kerry in '79. What did that feel like?
It was fabulous. The great thing about it was that everybody came onto the field at that particular stage. That was the way it was. But I met with my brothers on the field. We exchanged jerseys. I got his jersey, I gave him mine. But it was great on that. And then we had the buzz of. We used to go to the Green Isle Hotel at the time, and we had great buzz up there. And then we had a parade the following evening in town. So, fantastic. But listen, everybody wants to win an All-Ireland. When you win one, you wanted to win 2, 3, and but certainly to get the first one was the best one.
Of course, yeah. Now, you weren't the first rock to be perennially associated with Croke Park, because a lot of people wouldn't know, but your grandfather, John, that tradition, would you explain about it? A lot of people don't know about that tradition and the role he had for years and years in Croke Park.
Yeah, well, John would be his son. It was Willie Rock was the man with the bowler hat. He was my grandfather, and he would have had the keys. They used to live down in Ballymun. Joe still does in Russell Avenue, and he used to have the keys, and he would be the one that would open up Croke Park and would go along, and he would be the man to hand the ball to the referee before the matches, whether it be hurling or football. And his sons, my father worked on the styles along with Christy. John, who you spoke about, used to do the scoreboard. And the other son, Joe, he was involved in the dressing room. And his first job was back in 1938. And his first job in Croke Park at that stage, Joe's, was picking the skins off the pitch. Because at that stage then, what happened was everybody, the orange skins would be there, and at half time the fellas would be only getting oranges. They wouldn't be going in and throw the skins on, so his job was picking them off. And ironically, 74 years later, Joe is still going strong. He still does the dressing rooms in Croke Park, so hopefully next year, in 2013, that Croke Park might do something for him, because it's 75 years of kept going that he's still involved.
So it's totally fitting that you should run out onto that pitch in front of Hill 6 to hit it with it all Ireland.
Yeah, well, it's totally fitting. One of the Rocks did.
One of the Rocks.
Thankfully, it was me.
That was it, yeah. So the next 2 years, Barney, Kerry were back in 84 and 85. You got to both finals.
Yeah, we had done well to win Leinster, and we propelled ourselves into playing Kerry. But Kerry then came up with a few new lads, and they ended up winning 3 in a row, 84, 85 and 86, and we were just on the wrong end of it. We had a better chance than 85. I think 84 was the centenary of the All-Ireland, and that was made it hard, and Kerry had set themselves up to win it because they were coming off having been beaten in the 5 in a row. So it was just the way it worked out, and it wasn't to be.
So you were recognised immediately, Barney, from 83. You won 3 successive All-Stars in 83, 84 and 85. In actual fact, I mean, people still say now you should have got it in 82.
Yeah.
But that type of recognition, Barney, I mean, you were still young. You were very young at that time.
Yeah, in 85 I was 24, 25. So, and really when you hit 25, 26, you're meant to hit your peak.
Yeah.
And in 85 I went on to captain the All-Stars in beating Kerry over in, we drew the match in San Francisco and we beat them in New York, so it was good to captain a team that bet Kerry at that stage, and then really, going back to it, it was just a fantastic time to be involved in playing football, and the international series then started at that particular stage in 1994.
That's right. I was going to come to that one next. Before we go do that, the All-Star trips to America.
Yeah.
I mean, they must have been great. I mean, was there a social element? Obviously, the matches was the big one, but how did you?
Well, it was a cultural effort, really. We only went on one because it was nearly curtailed at one stage, and we went to San Francisco. And it was brilliant because we met a lot of Irish people out there that would have come to the matches, and that's really what the gathering was for. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you go to New York, and New York is full of Irish. So the way it worked with Gaelic Park was, I've heard of Gaelic Park, but we didn't really play in it that often. But then there was fantastic. The night of the finals was great in New York. And then I think, unfortunately, the following day, everybody just goes home. But it was great to meet all the other players and be involved with the other players and play with the other players.
Of course, grand. You mentioned then 1984, great, first international World Series team, Ireland. Different. You played for your club, you played for your county. Now you're playing for Ireland. It's probably the only way a GAA player could ever represent his country. Yeah,
and this is the first time since, I think, 1967 when Meath went out to play them. In Melbourne, so and it was the first international ever, and we would have played a few games. We played one game on a Saturday. The Australians came in and they wanted to see Croke Park and they wanted a little bit of a game, so we went along and as a Leinster team, I think it might have been, and we played them in Croke Park and we bet the living daylights out of them, but we forgot that we only just got off the pitch and they were getting used to the round ball and all that, so it wasn't the real thing. So by the time we got to Cork to play them in the first match, we realised then that they were up for the match because they hit everything, they knocked everybody, they caught some great balls and they bet us. And then we came back to Croke Park and we won an unbelievable match. And the amazing thing is the crowd grew as the matches went. There was 3 matches then. So by the time we got to the last match, it was winner takes all. And at that stage then we seen what it meant to Australia. And unfortunately for me, I had the head taken out of me. I broke my nose by McIntosh, the goalkeeper. But these things happen. I was thankful I put the ball in the net, but unfortunately, he kept coming and I should have watched him.
But looking at, for anyone watching them matches, going to the match, they looked really tough. I mean, vicious. It seemed like no holds barred.
Well, it was a bit like the rules were different. Yeah. Their rules were different to our rules. We were all expecting these big high marks, and there was quite a few of them. But there was a lot of off the ball hitting, off the ball dragging, and that's not part of our game. It's not meant to be, but it is part of their game where you stop the players, so but his learned, his progressed since then, and even now the games have got better. I think the Irish have got better with them, and it's something that maybe the Australians have to do, is try and play more football in them.
Exactly, yeah. 86, Barney, Leinster final against Meath. You got a bad injury.
Yeah, we got to the final, and on that particular day, it was a wet day, and I always remember the ball playing down. I used to always play wing forward, and all of a sudden that year, Brian Mullins, because Heffer was gone from the previous year, Brian Mullins, Robbie Kelleher, and Sean Doherty took over. So I was put into the corner because he felt that the closer to goal I was, the better. Or maybe it was because I hadn't got the legs or speed for the outsider. So they put me in, and I always remember the ball was coming through, and as the ball was coming through, Kieran Duff went by me, and I went and I flicked it onto Kieran. But his marker was Liam Harnan, who was coming also. But in them days, like, Liam wasn't avoiding me, so he went straight through me, and unfortunately for me, I broke the shoulder in two places, and I always remember just seeing it there recently at the Meath gathering of the 25-year team.
Oh yes, yeah.
And they were showing it, and I didn't realise that it was as bad as it was until I seen it. But even the referee never came over; he just let the play go on, and he did come back to me a year later and apologised that he didn't realise it. But I always said that if we'd have won, if it had stayed on, we would have had a better chance to win it, because we had missed 7 or 8 frees after we going off, and it was just the awkward thing. But listen, it's a bit like matches. Sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them, and as I said earlier on, you can't turn back the clock.
No, true. In your career, Barney, one of the most freakish things that people ever saw was that National League semi-final against Cork, when you scored that goal. It's up there on the internet for everyone to see, when Cork didn't come out for the extra time. I mean, at what point in that match did you and the Dublin team realise that they weren't going to come back out?
Well, that was the first time. I think it was the quarter-final. It was the first time that in 1987, that the matches were said that there was pressure being put on the GAA for fixtures. And we read up in the paper that if matches end in a draw, there's extra time. Yeah. So some people would know and other people wouldn't. Now, I think Frank Murphy knew from Cork, but the problem Frank Murphy had was that he thought he'd get it back down to Cork, like he did in '83. So this is what was on the back of his head.
Yeah.
But from the match itself, we were well on top of one stage, and then all of a sudden, coming into the final few minutes, we were 2 points up. And I always remember that they got a penalty, and they stuck it away. But from that then, John O'Leary got the ball real quick, and he gave it to Dave Sinnott, because time was up, and Dave then kicked it down in towards down towards the canal end, over towards the sideline. Now he ended up getting it about 21 yards out, and I had no other option but to turn and kick it. But as I turned and kicked it, the ball went over the bar. So that was the way the game ended in a draw. So then all of a sudden, Cork, we all gathered in the field, and Cork went into the dressing room, and I think we went into the dressing room as well. The referee was out in the field, and he was blowing the whistle. We came out and we lined up, and no sign of Cork. And the referee was blown, and I thought that, listen, what he'll do is he'll just let everybody go in. And at that stage then, I had moved into full forward before the end, so I went in, played full forward, and on that particular day, Declan Boulder caught the ball, and I always have a little bit of skip with him. He kicked the first straight ball in his life straight into full forward. I caught it and just turned around and soloed into the goals, and I could always see Noel McCaffrey at the back of the goals as the ball hit the net. But it was a funny incident. It probably should never have happened. We're glad it did, because two things is I'll be remembered for it, number one, not being bad, and secondly, we ended up going on to win the National League that year, beating Kerry in the final. So maybe if Cork came out, we mightn't have won it. So, but we did win it, and it was the first of our second two league titles that we did win.
Yeah, as I say, it's certainly one of the most amazing, unusual things you'd ever see in GAA. You played up to 91, Barney, and that 4-game saga with me that still hurts Dublin people.
Well, I suppose, like everybody would say, it was a fantastic time to be involved in the game. I was sort of, only 30 at that stage, and there was new management. The management had switched 2 or 3 times up to then. Jerry McCall had left in 1990, and Paddy Cullen took over then. And in 1990, I ended up getting Bell's palsy, which was an infection at the side of the face, and I played the Leinster final with it. And I could only see out one side of my eye. I had to cover my eye in which to do it, because it's a desperate thing. And what happened was, I was recovered. I ended up having to get my eye stitched up and to work my thing back. But at that stage, Paddy Cullen had left me out of the league. He said, listen, to go away, get yourself right, and come back then in after Christmas. So I did, but you could always get the feeling that it was always harder to get back in. And I remember we played a league match against, our last league match. It didn't mean much because we weren't qualifying, but we were playing Meath. And myself and Kieran Duff, we played that day, and I think we might have scored 1-4, 1-5. But it came along the championship, and the first match we were drawn against was Meath. And with that then, the first day I wasn't picked. Charlie got injured, and I played the second day, ended up getting man of the match in it. And then I played the third day, and it was a draw. And then all of a sudden I wasn't playing the fourth day. But I always remembered one thing, because we got a penalty with about 5 minutes to go, and we were 4 points up. And I remember saying to Fran Ryder, I said, Fran, tell him to kick it over the bar. 5 points is better than 4 points, and what harm is it if we don't score and go get the goal? But no, they wanted to go for the kill. But as it turned out, had we kicked it over the bar, we probably would have won it, because Meath would have needed 3 scores to beat us, and not, as it turned out, they got the point, then the goal, and then they got the point. So it was just, again, hindsight is a great thing.
I know. But so when your inter-county career ended, Barney, your football career didn't, because you continued playing with Garristown then.
Well, I finished out with Ballymun, Paul, because I played with Ballymun for another 2 years. But I've been living in Garristown for 20 years at that stage. So I decided that I would push on, just move to Garristown, because the kids were there at that stage. And my brother-in-law Noel was involved with Garristown, and Kathleen's father was involved in Garristown. So I said I'd give it a few years, and I went down. I had probably the best 7 years of my life at that stage, because we would have went on to go from junior Division 5 and bringing them right up to a senior Division 2, and we ended up doing the same feat that we did with Ballymun in Ballymun in 78, as you recall. We won the Intermediate League, and in 79 we won the Intermediate Championship. And with Garristown in 98 we won the Intermediate League, and in 99 we won the Intermediate Championship. So it was just amazing, 20 years on, the same thing.
Fantastic. And I'd say that's a very rare occurrence here when you think about it. Winning with one club, those two things is brilliant, but to actually replicate it 20 years later with another club is fantastic, So then you decided to have a crack at management.
Yeah, well, the management came in the middle of it. Westmeath, I was involved with Stabannon, the Parnells down in Louth, and we won the championship in 94, and then in 95 Westmeath were running short of a manager, and they asked me would I train them. And I hemmed and hawed, because I was only 34 at the time and I still wanted to play football. I went in and I said, all right, sure, listen, I'll give it a go. And we played. I was with them for 2.5 years, because I really wanted to go back and play football. I was involved with their under 21 teams. We got to a Leinster semi-final against Meath, and then all of a sudden we played Dublin in the first round of the championship in 1996, after Dublin won the All-Ireland. So that was a tough one, but we put up a good performance. But they were always great players, but it was, they just had to believe that they were better than they were.
Sure.
And it was always tough to get them through. But I decided that I just didn't want to. I wanted to finish out and play football. So I decided at 37 that I had enough of that, and I wanted just to play another couple of years football.
Yeah. And you still combined Like every club that you actually managed, you were successful with.
Well, most clubs. I wouldn't say every club. There was a few clubs that you don't be. But at that stage, you just wanted to listen. You just wanted to go out and you wanted to win things because it's easier to put a smile on your face when you win than when you are beaten. Yeah. But like I say, I kept with Stabannon up and down, and we won maybe 3 or 4 championships from 1994 all the way through to 1999. So I was combining them with Westmeath and with Garristown. I don't know how I was doing triple jobbing.
I was going to say that. That must have really took up.
Yeah.
There's not enough hours in the day for all that.
No, and the one thing about it is when Westmeath were out of the championship, which was June, the end of July, it meant then that the senior championships down the country take place. So I suppose it dovetailed an awful lot at that stage.
Yeah. And then you went to Kildare, you went to Selbridge.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one. Selbridge never won the championship. I went in 2007, and 2008 we ended up going on to win the championship. It was fairy tale stuff in many ways because it was great to get there. We were beaten in the league final in 2008 by Moorfield, and we went along and we got to the final and we played Sarsfields and we beat them after a replay. And like I say, that was the first time in 124 years. So they never won it. So it was fantastic, and it was just brilliant to be involved with Selbridge.
Yeah. So at the moment now, Barney, I mean, you're known from your newspaper, your television, punditry. You're never going to get out of the gym.
No. Listen, you love it, and hopefully, at this stage, we look forward to Dean, lad. Hopefully, he can get involved with Dublin next year, and he's playing well at club level. So there's always something to do and always somewhere to go. And once there's a round ball there, once there's a goal post at each end, it's something that you look forward to and love doing.
Yeah. Well, how about the music industry, Barney? Have you ever think of retiring and going into it after your celebrity?
No, I think Jacko said he's retiring, so if Jacko retires, I'll retire.
Yeah.
Davey will keep going because he was the real singer. But, fantastic.
He actually said it. That was brilliant. And I mean, people can still see the three, as David, Peggy, Jacko, yourself, in that. And apart from the charity element in it, I mean, did you say you were more nervous the first time you got up than you were if you were kicking a free for Dublin in an All-Ireland final?
You would, because, listen, everybody thinks they're great singers. And everybody thinks they know everything. But it's only when you go down and you're standing in front of a mic and you have to remember all the words. That's the problem. Like, we can all go along, we can have a sing-song and we can all have a bit of banter, the whole lot. But when you're left there and you have to continue it on with the song and the words, that's the problem. And for Davey, there was no problem. For me and Jacko, there was a problem because we had to learn songs, learn the words of them, and then we had to listen to the music, and then we had to move in certain ways as Twink would have got us to do in all that. So there was a lot of stuff coming through, and that all happened in a period of about 3-4 weeks. So there was a lot of work done by Shinna Will and Larry Bass, but really, it was a bit frightening. But the more we got on, the more we were in it for the crack.
Of course, yeah, that's it. When you look back now, Barney, over the career and that, I mean, you as you said yourself, you came up against some great teams. The Kerry team from 84, 85, 86. Offaly came good as Dublin from 1980 onwards. In terms of individual players that you came up against, I mean, is there any? I know there's some loads of great players.
There is, and it's always very hard to pinpoint one and to because then you're insulting all the other great players. And I've been involved with some great, like Kieran Duff was fantastic. He was involved with me from minor level all the way through. John O'Leary, as I say, as well, and then you just go into your club level. There was some great players in club. John Cairns had everything, that anybody could have. Maybe the mindset mightn't have been the best ever. And Shawnee Mylan, who we said earlier on, was fantastic left foot shot he had. Unfortunately, he died there at a tender age of about 45. So, and then when you look at it, you have Brian Mullins, who shone everybody, and he was a great man involved in it. Then you've got so many fellas outfield. You've got Matt Connor. He was a fantastic player. Love watching him left and right foot. He was a master of them all. And then my friend Jacko. So there's so many of them that it's you would be afraid to name.
Of
it's
course.
very hard to name.
Yeah. And friendships and bonds made up. Do you still have that, or is there? Is that overstated?
Yeah, it's a bit overstated in many ways because you'll meet up with people. Like our team of the 80s, we don't meet. We might meet at a club match, we might meet at a Dublin match, and that's it. The 70s team got on better than the 80s team. I don't know why, but and then even with the club, I go to club matches and I see some of the players don't go to club matches. So it's, but listen, I suppose if you have to have the time as well, because most people have children coming through, their married lives take a different turn, so they don't really get the time that you once have when you were a young lad.
Sure, yeah. So finally, by then, you mentioned Dean. Fingers crossed, Dean will break into this team on a regular basis next year. How do you see the future for Dublin after this year?
Well, I think Dublin, they're always going to be thereabouts. Because I think their development squad's coming right through. They're ahead of the posse in Leinster, and it's only then when you come outside it, when you get to an All-Ireland stage, the pressure really comes on because people expect an awful lot from Dublin. But there has to be. Dublin will be thereabouts in the next 3 or 4 years, and possibly will win an All-Ireland, and probably will be looking at playing matches against Mayo and Donegal. Kerry mightn't be involved for a while, because of the way the system, their underage structure is not there. But I'd reckon that Dublin will be thereabouts in the next 4 or 5 years, contesting semi-finals, finals.
Hopefully you're right, Barney. Listen, Barney Rock, it's been a pleasure, and thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Thanks.